Hi, this is Jorge from Team JVS. Just doing a quick review on Mare of Easttown, Episode 6, Soar Must Be the New Storm. And just to let you know, it's going to be spoiler filled, so if you haven't seen the episode, I suggest watching it. I'm just going to go through real quick, just a quick synopsis from top to bottom about this episode, my thoughts, and then how I think the season finale is going to go. So we start this episode with Marv in the hospital. She is, has her whole family there. Um, they kind of confirm that Zabel's dead. I guess sadly, I was kind of hoping that it would be one of those like things where he would be like in a coma or something, and at the end of this series, he kind of wakes up, but now he's dead. From there, they end up kind of this episode they end up flipping through scenes a lot. So from there they kind of go into the police department finding the bike that the deacon ended up throwing over the bridge. And then you also get shot over to the deacon himself getting interrogated by the chief and another cop there, and just kind of going over the whole, like, why did you do this, all this stuff. They end up arresting him for tampering with evidence. I'm not sure how, I guess, what the whole point of his story arc is in this series, other than, just to give you another person who could have done it, basically. From there, you kind of jump over to Marv and Lori talking about her affair. I thought that was very interesting, just that little snippet of talk. The next scene was the one that really just kind of like goes crazy for me, just because you see so much emotion. So Marv ends up going to Zabel's mom's house, just to apologize for, what happened. And, she's really sorry that her son died and that he was a good detective. And his mom just ends up just smacking the crap out of her multiple times, and just at the end of the day blaming her for her son's death, which I think is very intriguing. Which I think that's just how any parent would be. If your son died with doing something with somebody else, that would kind of be the main reason. The part that was really intriguing is from there, Marv ends up going back home, and her mom ends up, asking her, hey, how did everything go? And she just breaks down and starts crying. And you kind of start seeing this more human side of her, because throughout this whole series, Marv has been just so rigid and so, just so firm on things, and, just very cold. And now you're starting to slowly see her, kind of get back. From there, you see this really good, I guess for me, it's like, almost like a full circle scene where Marv is talking with the chief, and the chief is telling her all this information about what's going on with the case. And, good thing, like, he gives her job back, and he gives her badge, which is super awesome because obviously you did want, something to come from this. So you can almost see how Marv, it almost like if she feels very appreciative of her being able to have this role back. Um, from there, you see Richard come to visit Marv, which I thought was interesting. I'm still trying to figure out Richard's character, and again, he's almost like the deacon. Like, what's his point in all of this? The part that I thought was intriguing was Marv basically let him know that she canceled on him the week before to go on a date with Zabel. Um, you know, Richard actually takes that really well. He was able to just kind of brush it off, and he was like, "Hey, like we didn't have any promises or anything like that." But he did let her know like he's there for her. Marv ends up kind of breaking it off and just letting him know that she has to get her life together. This, I think, is a real nice change for her, as she continues to kind of just go through the process of everything that she's dealing with in life, and I think just everything that she's been holding in. Um, from there, you kind of get a lot of weird back and forth after this scene. So Brianna ends up calling Mare about Dylan. Obviously, Marv goes and and sees them, she ends up telling Marv that, Dylan wasn't at the house that night when the girl died. And this, I thought, was a huge kind of turn of what's happening with it, I guess, with all the kids. Another part which I did not see happening was Brianna's dad ends up apologizing to Marv for basically acting the way he did, and I guess interrogating and almost like bullying Marv, is the nicest way I can put it. She just kind of gives him a head nod, and it is what it is. From here, you get snapped over back into the jail, or not the jail, but the police office, and you see Dylan getting questioned by Marvin, the chief. And it's very interesting because they bring him in just basically stating, hey, we just want to like tidy up a few loose ends that we have, so on and so forth. So he starts talking and they start questioning him. And then they kind of throw out that Brianna let them know that, hey, like, you weren't at the house that day or that night. And you can see that Dylan instantly is like, what's going on? I thought this was just to button up the case and all that. And they let him know that it wasn't the other guy who ended up kidnapping the other two girls. She basically just throws out her cards and it's like, hey, he didn't kill them. And as soon as that happens, you see Dylan basically just ask for a lawyer. And I thought Marv just handled it so well. And she just basically said, yeah, you definitely should. And let them know that your alibi has tons of holes in it and that you're the prime suspect on this murder, which is interesting. So that whole part of it, I think, is going to be very neat. From here, you kind of see it jumps over to Marv going to therapy. And this part was very heart-wrenching just to like listen to her going through this and talking. The therapist even questions Marv on like why she's still going here, because it's no longer required. So you can kind of see that Marv is trying to get her life together. So you kind of get the whole story on how her son kills himself, which is extremely sad. Like basically ends up hanging himself in the attic. And Marv ends up, I guess she was out and about, but Siobhan was in the house and she asked her to, go check on her brother because I guess the neighbors called that he was there. Definitely very, very, just a sad scene. From there, you kind of switch over again to, I believe her name was Beth, calling Marv about Freddie. And Marv ends up finding Freddie in his house, but he's OD'd. From there, which, was definitely very strange, after he was OD'd, Marv kind of looks down and finds a garbage bag full of clothes. And it definitely, like strikes a chord with her of some sorts. From there, Marv just starts kind of going, through her whole kind of detective thing. Like she gets put into that mind frame. She ends up going and talking with Lori again, asking her about the family reunion at the lake, and they kind of start talking a little bit more about that. From there, it kind of goes to another one where Dawn and Marv kind of have their moments. Dawn was the one whose daughter got kidnapped. So they just kind of have a moment of just like Dawn just saying thank you, which I thought was nice. I think that's a nice little closure with that whole thing of, the missing daughter. From there, you kind of see Siobhan go into this kind of like freak out stage is the nicest way I can put it. Her girlfriend isn't calling her back at the moment, but it's one of those things where I think even in the show, it says that she has like a show to do or something. And she, calls her to call her back. And then she like texts her, calls her. And she's just having almost like this mental breakdown. I think Marv opens the door and sees her kind of stumbling in because obviously she's either on something or drunk. But when she goes to confront her, Siobhan just kind of like lashes out and just tells her that like she hates her for having her find her brother and all this, which I can only imagine how difficult that has to be for, like a sibling to find another sibling dead. So I definitely thought that was very, just just a heart-wrenching moment where you can kind of see all of Siobhan's emotions just pouring out. So I definitely thought that was very well done. From there, you kind of move into John and his dad kind of having a moment. Um, this whole time, John's dad has kind of looked a little ill and a little sickly. Um, and he basically, John is like, "Hey, what's going on? Like, just let me know." And he confesses that Billy, which is I guess one of the brothers, the night that they found Aaron's body, his dad went downstairs and saw Billy like covered in blood, and they haven't talked about it since. So it's definitely insane. Um, just that concept of it. From there, it jumps immediately to Marv talking to Kenny in jail. And that's Aaron's dad in regards to kind of the clothes that they found in Freddie's house when he OD'd. Um, that's when Kenny basically tells Marv that, Aaron was staying with him and Billy in the same home. And she also had a necklace with that date on it. This instantly starts kind of like clicking, and it's like, well, what if Billy did it, basically? And that's kind of what I think this episode was alluring to. Marv and Frank, have a conversation for a little bit, and that one didn't add too much to this, but from there you kind of get all the teens once again. You get Jess getting confronted by Dylan and Sean, I believe is the guy's name. He really doesn't have a huge role in this, but you see them get into it. Jess obviously runs away from them. Finally, Dylan finds her and then literally just puts a gun to her head and basically just says, we're all in this together, which makes me feel that they had something to do with Aaron's death, which is a little weird because, you have in the next couple scenes Billy confessing to killing her. So it's definitely really weird. Throughout that scene also, in between that scene, you kind of see basically there's this bathtub scene that was just heart-wrenching. I saw it for like when I saw it, instantly you're just, whenever you see a little kid get hurt, you just never want that to happen. Luckily, nothing happened to the kid, but yeah, that scene was that was a whole lot of note for me. So then from here, you kind of go to Billy confessing that he ended up killing Aaron. I actually, and this is just my thought, I don't think Billy ended up fully killing Aaron. I still think it's going to be Dylan and Sean and Jess had something to do with it. And Billy just kind of ended up being at the wrong place at the wrong time type of situation. But I'll go into that a little bit more at the end of it. From there, after Billy kind of confesses, you kind of get this whole thing unfold where Billy is DJ's father, but he doesn't, they didn't want people to know because Billy is basically her cousin, so it's also incestuous. So it's really, everything starts unfolding here. This is probably the last, 5 minutes of the show where you kind of find all this out. Another thing is Jess went to the police department to talk to Marv. Marv wasn't there, but they brought her in to talk to the captain. And I don't know if you remember a couple episodes back when they were burning the journals, she ended up keeping like a note card or a piece of paper from it and put it in her pocket. Well, she gives that to the captain. And that's kind of how the episode ends, which is a massive cliffhanger. As soon as that happened, also, I believe the captain is telling, I forgot who, to call Marv immediately. And that's kind of how it ends. So obviously the next episode, they're going to tie everything up. The part that I find very interesting and I'm looking forward to. So I still think that Dylan and Sean and maybe even Jess had something to do with her murder. But it could have been something where they shot her and she started walking away or walking into the forest. And then, for whatever reason, like Billy was maybe driving and, you know, just ends up hitting her. You know, like those scenes where, like, in any horror movie where the victim is getting, like, you know, gets shot or something, runs into, like, the forest and then, or runs out of the forest and boom, gets hit by a car. I think something like that happened. The part that obviously is still weird is obviously when they found Erin, she was completely undressed, and all that. So I'm trying to wonder if maybe it was Dylan, Sean, and Jess who kind of like tortured her for a hot minute that night, and then when she ran away to go for help or she found an escape, she ended up getting hit by a car or something. It just made no sense, you know. So I'm very excited to see how this all ends. I'm still not 100% sure that Billy officially killed her, even though he confessed to it. So I do want to see what all happens there. I know Marv is going to the river where they're at currently. But yeah, but I think this episode overall was, it was very choppy in the sense where it had a lot of scenes and a lot of, I guess, stuff in it. But it didn't feel like fluff, which is nice. It was a very jam-packed episode. This right here, I'll probably say, is probably one of my highlights of this series, just because with everything that it's closing and all the doors that it's kind of opening. Overall, I would rate this a 9. Definitely felt that, you know, the acting in here, Marv's character is just like, it's just a phenomenal, the way that they're portraying her and how she's going through all of this. So I'm very excited to see how this ends up going and how this ends. Would love to hear more what you guys think, how you guys think this will end, what you guys think this final episode will bring. So definitely, please leave a comment below. Let me know your thoughts. But other than that, this is Jorge from Team JVS, and I'll see you next week in the season finale. Peace.